Training camp is finally here. The Minnesota Vikings are going to report rookies and quarterbacks on the 26th and then veterans on the 28th. And I am very excited to see how this is going to line up. But there are still a lot of questions surrounding all the narratives around all of these players. So let's kind of have a conversation about players who could end up being traded. Every year, the Vikings seem to make a trade, either sending a player off for like the 6th, 7th swap or acquiring one of those. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah was big on that. We don't know what Nolan Teasley is going to be like in those situations yet, but we cannot rule out the fact that we may see somebody get traded. So let's have that conversation. There are a few guys that I think could end up being traded. And the first one of those is Theo Jackson. And we talked about him on the last video about how he could be out of a starting job. And one of the big reasons why I think he could be traded is, they drafted Jacoby Thomas. Jacob Thomas, the UDFA out of James Madison, seems to be a really talented option. And Jackson ended up getting his job taken away from him. Now, it wasn't as simple as, hey, you're hurt, we're going to put this new guy in, or hey, we're done for the year and we're going to put this new guy in to kind of get him reps, which that other guy ended up being Jay Ward, who had never been a full-time starter in the National Football League. But I want to say this as well. Jackson got benched because he was playing poorly. He was rough for multiple weeks leading up to that Green Bay Packers game, and then he was benched and did not play for 3 weeks. Those 3 weeks, Jay Ward ended up taking over and playing relatively well. He still has some issues with tackling, but from a talent perspective, he certainly has it. And he has the versatility to play a little bit of cornerback as well. And Jackson only ended up coming back because Josh Metellus had that torn labrum, and they shut him down after the Cowboys game. Shutting him down was a big deal. Why? He would have kept playing if the Vikings were in the playoff hunt, because a torn labrum is mainly about pain management. And you can play with that because it's a cartilage injury. Now, it's painful and it stinks, but you can work through it. You can work with it. Overall, Jackson is likely a trade candidate and not a cut candidate because of the salary cap. He's only going to save a couple $100,000 on the salary cap this year if you end up cutting him. And if you trade him, you'll save about $1.2 million. You'll still have to take $1 million dead this year, $1 million dead next year. But that is going to be a significant amount of savings for a guy who you probably aren't going to play much at all. And I like that idea of trading him. You still have to find a partner, but finding a partner, well, that might end up being easy because teams will see, hey, oh, he's on his way out. We'll do the 6th, 7th pick swap. And bada bing, bada boom. The next guy is a fan favorite, and that's Ivan Pace Jr. Listen, when the Vikings signed him as a UDFA in that 2023 draft class, it was great. He was a top 116 player on the consensus board. I forget which number off the top of my head. Go check out Arif Hassan's work over at Wide Left, where he does the best consensus board in the business. And with Pace, it's a very complicated one. He's very good when you ask him to do certain things. If you want him to shoot a gap, occupy a blocker, be able to duck underneath and be a penetrator in the run game, or be a really good blitzing pass rusher, Pace is your guy. He's awesome at it. The problem is he's not a well-rounded linebacker, and that is something that Brian Flores' defense needs. You have to be able to be good in coverage. You have to be able to be a good lateral mover, which he is not. He is a linear mover, running straight ahead, and he's excellent at it. But if you're not doing all of the well-rounded linebacker things, it makes you inherently less valuable for the defense, which is why when Blake Cashman returned after missing 4 games with that pulled hamstring, he ended up replacing Pace, and Pace was relegated to spot duty in special teams. Now, he does have special teams value. He's one of the better special teamers the Minnesota Vikings have, especially on kick coverage. But overall, I think it's important to note that when you have the conversation with Pace, it's not really a simple conversation. Why? Easy. He's making $3.52 million. He's in the 4th year of his deal, the last year of team control, because remember, he was undrafted free agency. You have a year of restricted free agency. Nobody wanted to tender him, and I don't blame them because he's too specialized of a player. I'm curious if the Vikings will actually want to pay that $3.52 million, or if they're just kind of biding their time and hoping to trade him to a team that needs a linebacker and he can be a decent fit at a position where, quite frankly, there are some really talented players, but there is a drastic drop off at a certain point. Pace is a good player, but his limited nature makes it so the Vikings just can't trust him. But special teams may keep him on the roster. But if somebody ends up like a Jacob Roberts from the Calgary Stampeders of the CFL, showcases some apt special teams ability, we may be saying goodbye to Ivan Pace Jr. The next two I'm going to group together because I think that the quarterback position is going to have one of these guys traded, either Kyler Murray or J.J. McCarthy. Let's start with Kyler Murray. And we're going to work off the assumption that these players lost the competition. So that's how I'm going to frame the discussion. If Kyler Murray loses the competition, my full expectation is he will be traded and he will ask for a trade. Why? He needs to have a good year to prove that he still got it so he can cash in on another big contract. If he doesn't, who's going to pay him 40, 50 million a year? Nobody. But if he balls out and showcases this is why I was taken first overall, I still got it. Somebody's going to fork over $100+ million in guaranteed money. Somebody's going to do it. You know it. I know it. And Murray knows it too. He's not going to want to sit on the bench. It's already going to be a bad enough look losing to J.J. McCarthy, who honestly at points was abysmal last year. But he's going to want to play. He's going to want to play a lot. And O'Connell has made it very clear that he wants to give this starting quarterback a runway. So they don't have to like look over their shoulder and be like, hey, where's the other guy? He doesn't want to do that. And that's a good thing. But overall, that could end up meaning Kyler's out the door. So now let's have the conversation about J.J. McCarthy. He's going into year 3. He's only 23 years old, and it feels way too early to give up on him, right? Well, they put so much onus on Kwesi Adofo-Mensah being the cause of the J.J. McCarthy pick and trying to absolve all blame onto Kevin O'Connell that it raises some interesting questions. With Nolan Teasley coming in, the slate's essentially clean, and if Teasley wants to just get rid of J.J. McCarthy, he can do that. So if he loses the job and you are full steam ahead with Kyler, you're essentially saying that J.J. McCarthy's never going to work out here. So why not try to get something for him on the open market? Maybe a team has a quarterback go down with injury. Maybe the Bucs lose Baker Mayfield for a significant amount of time, if not the year. Maybe the Cowboys and Dak Prescott. Maybe Bo Nix just re-injures his ankle and things go haywire. You never know what could happen. Nobody thought Teddy Bridgewater was going to get hurt, and all of a sudden the Vikings are trading 1st and 4th round picks for Sam Bradford. And I'm not saying that McCarthy will go for that. Far from it. But moving on from him might be the smartest play for both sides because McCarthy gets a fresh start. He's still young. He's still impressionable, meaning you can really develop him and get him to a point where he can be successful. And the Vikings just may believe that he doesn't have it, and they're putting in their resources might just not be worth their time anymore. And I think if Kyler Murray ends up being the starter, McCarthy's time in Minnesota is done already. Might as well get something for him. And that's kind of where I sit there. I don't necessarily think that trading any of these guys is a good or a bad idea, but the idea here is to identify players who could be traded. And I think all of these are very likely to be on that list. What do you think? Let me know in the comments if you agree with any of these, including the quarterbacks, which I know might be a little controversial, but my belief is one of those quarterbacks will not be on the week 1 roster. We'll find out. I'm Tyler Forness of A to Z Sports. Skol Vikings.